Caloroga Shark Media.
Robust one again. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. I cannot get Jerry Seinfeld out of this podcast. You may have seen that on Sunday, dozens of students at Duke University's graduation walked out on Jerry, some chanting Free Palestine. Let's listen.
Feel about our commencement speaker?
Jerry was able to keep his cool, deliver his entire speech, no interruptions. I listened to the entire 17 minutes, and I pulled some clips for you. As you listen, notice how Jerry actually speaks like Tom Papa's delivery, not the Jerry Seinfeld impression that we all do, the, hey, you ever notice? He doesn't really speak like that. It's more of a Tom Papa delivery. Pay a lot of attention to it.
If you're in a small submersible that looks like a giant kazoo and going to visit the Titanic, 7 miles down at the bottom of the ocean, and the captain of the vessel is using a Game Boy controller, pay attention to that. What are you checking out down there? Oh, I see what happened. This ship sank. Now I understand why it never made it into port.
And here's an interesting take on privilege from Jerry Seinfeld.
Find something where you love the good parts and don't mind the bad parts too much. The torture you're comfortable with. This is the golden path to victory in life. Work, exercise, relationships, they all have a solid component of pure torture, and they are all 1,000% worth it. Privilege is a word that has taken quite a beating lately. Privilege today seems to be the worst thing you can have. I would like to take a moment to defend it. Again, a lot of you are thinking, I can't believe they invited this guy. Too late. I say, use your privilege. I grew up a Jewish boy from New York. That is a privilege if you want to be a comedian. Thanks. If I messed up a funny story around my relatives, they would go, that's not how you tell that joke. The prostitute has to be behind the drapes when the wife comes in. You went to Duke. That is an unbelievable privilege. I now have an honorary doctorate of humane letters degree from Duke University. And if I can figure out a way to use that, I will. I haven't figured anything out yet. I think it's pretty much as useful in real life as this outfit I'm wearing. But so what? I'll take it. My point is we're embarrassed about things we should be proud of and proud of things we should be embarrassed about.
This incident led me to wonder, should Jerry Seinfeld go political in his comedy? I talked about this on Saturday, and then this came up, and then I doubled down on it and wrote about it in the Substack on Sunday. I'll just refer you there. The link is in the show notes. It's free. If it asks you for money, just go, nope, I want the free version. If you want to read my thoughts, but the too long didn't read is, hey, Jerry, why don't you go political? George Carlin wasn't the hippy-dippy weatherman forever. Would love to see your take on things. You're a good writer. You know how to be funny. You say you're passionate about it. Go for it. Anyway, I wrote at length about that on the Substack, link in the show notes. I mentioned in the Facebook group, which is Daily Comedy News Podcast Group, I did not like Nikki Glaser's special. I was bouncing around the channels as we do. You don't do that anymore, but you know what I mean, on a Saturday night. And I'm like, oh, HBO, Nikki Glaser special. I will check this out because I'm really into her this week because she crushed at the Tom Brady roast. And that special, didn't like it. And I knew as soon as I posted it, I knew Nikki Glaser's having a great week and people are going to get mad at Johnny Mac for not liking the special. Didn't like the special. As I wrote, I just didn't buy her premises, at least in the 20 minutes. Maybe later in the special, and I didn't watch the entire special where she got serious about depression and topics. Maybe then it was good. But that first 15, 20 minutes, it sounded like stand-up comedy is supposed to sound. We actually got into that in the Facebook group as well. I was discussing Bob Hope. Let me pull it up because I made just a nonsensical example of a Bob Hope joke. So I wrote a Bob Hope-esque joke where the tag doesn't even make sense from the setup, but it has the rhythm of a joke. Now, I don't have a half-assed Bob Hope impression. I just tried 5 times, and it's so bad I took it out, so I'll just do it as Johnny Mac. But a setup would be, hey, did you notice Richard posted in the Facebook group, and you pause and you mug for the camera in that Bob Hope way, and you go, yeah, it was either that or try to convince Nixon to leave Vietnam. Right? The punchline doesn't even make sense, but it's got the rhythm of a joke, and that's what I felt Nikki was doing. That it was just yucks, and it had the formation of comedy, but I was like, I don't buy anything you're doing here. I know this opinion is going to be unpopular, but that's okay. If you've been listening the last week or so, let's just add Nikki Glaser to the list of people that can be mad at me. So we've got Jerry, Howard, Nikki Glaser, Mulaney, everybody at Netflix. Newsweek really liked the special. Coincidentally, they had her for an interview. I don't know if that's related or not. And they write, comedian Nikki Glaser never wants to offend, quoting Nikki, I never want to say offensive or raunchy things or push the envelope because that speaks to some kind of comedian who just wants to rile people up. She wants to hit you with honest and really funny, precise, acute jokes throughout. Meanwhile, Glaser said she was at the Tom Brady after party and Tom Brady did not attend. She said he probably had something to do because he's a busy guy. Kind of weird that Tom didn't show up at the party. He was on his way out, and I ran into him in the hallway and just said, hey, thanks for having me. We didn't meet him before the show. I only met him after I got done with my set after telling horrible things about him. He just goes, you did a great job. Good luck with everything, which is pretty much saying, I'll never see you again, and don't try to contact me. Have a good life. Nikki said all that on the Pat McAfee show last Thursday. Netflix announced that Big Guy, a special from Rachel Feinstein, will be on Netflix 1 week from today, May 21st. There is a clip. Let's listen.
My mom is like aggressively liberal. She would have preferred if I married like a genderless Kenyan composter than an Irish Catholic fireman. Like she was praying one of us was gay. She was just sitting in the kitchen waiting. Like there's Coco if anyone feels gay and wants to talk about it. My mom's a lot. Even physically, she's always wearing some sort of long, like, menopausal cape, just some kind of Navajo smock. She wears a hostile amount of turquoise. It's aggressive.
In Big Guy, Rachel Feinstein, who we had doing mornings at SiriusXM Raw Dog towards the end of my run, but there was a boss there who one time told me that his wife wasn't familiar with the comedians we were playing, and we had to redo the playlist, and we basically turned it into a top 40 station instead of the original 9.5 years, which was, hey, we know comedy and we're trying to educate you. So we were too early on Rachel. Oops, sorry, boss guy. Add him to the list of people that's mad at me. Rachel in her new special, Big Guy, jokes about her life as the wife of a firefighter, a mother, and a stand-up comic, in the words of her 3-year-old daughter. My daddy's a hero, and my mommy's sarcastic. A very good listen is the podcast Uncomfortable Conversations with Josh Zepps. I'll refer you to the Jimmy Carr episode. I went for a walk on Sunday and really, really enjoyed listening to Jimmy break down comedy. Here's Jimmy talking about the importance of having a real job so you appreciate your showbiz career.
I worked for Shell Oil for a couple of years, yeah. I had like a proper job. I think it's quite important as well, because that thing of the hedonic treadmill, we get very used to our lives being good.
Yeah.
So you need something to anchor you.
Yeah.
You kind of need the school years or the college years or the work years. If you're in show business or doing anything creative, you need something to judge it against.
Yes.
To go, well, that was really boring.
Yeah.
And now I do this thing
Yeah.
and it's really fun. Very few people get to breathe that rarefied air. And so I get kind of sick and tired of people complaining about it.
Jimmy's a comedian, so he had to be asked about cancel culture. Interesting take here.
Yes, but I think you have to right-size it. I think you have to right-size it. You have to say, well, look, I told a joke and some people didn't like it. That's as serious as it is. Like if someone has a problem with our joke, okay, I'm not for everyone. I would say there are 50 jokes in that show. I do know that show. That's the new one. That was a preview of the new show.
Yeah. I mean, it's literally just, clearly just happened.
50 jokes that are worse than that.
Right.
In the show.
Right.
You have no right to be offended by that joke.
Right.
Because what about the ones that came before and after? And the idea that you go, oh, that sacred cow, the thing that offends me, you can't joke about. But the jokes in the show about rape or paedophilia or famine or disease.
Not things to be joked about, Jimmy Carr.
But all of the other stuff, all the other stuff's fine.
Right.
It's that one that's the problem.
Specific one.
So, and I think actually the way the world is at the moment, it just seems very true. I can't imagine. It tends to be a slow news week when these things catch fire. Comedy's sort of like a canary in the mine. If you look at like Jerry Seinfeld stopped playing the universities in America about 10 years ago. He said, I'm not playing the university campus anymore. They're a bit too sensitive.
Yeah.
That was the canary in the mine.
Right.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And going, these people are being crazy.
Do you remember his gag that they were upset about?
What was the
he
one
had
they
a
upset-
gag
How
about.
can they be upset at Seinfeld?
I know. He had a gag about young people scrolling through Instagram and just scrolling through Tinder or one of these dating apps or something. And he said that they're kind of just scrolling and checking it and selecting and yes or noing like a gay prince or something.
Yeah.
It was that mild. And they were like, that's a homophobic. It's also an anti-royalist slur, perhaps. But, or like, I think he said a gay French prince or something like that. He was just saying that these people are behaving in an entitled fashion.
Right.
But yeah,
okay.
that was
Yeah,
it.
but I mean, if you're, okay.
Yeah.
If you're offended by that, great.
I know. How many gay French princes are there?
Good luck in the world. Good luck in the world, though, because it's
I know.
You know, if you're that brittle.
And good stuff from Jimmy on the evolution of stand-up comedy, which, I struggle with this as well. Like, where do we start? And he's starting it with Carlin and Pryor. Good take here.
But really, I'd say 69, 70, if you look at maybe Richard Pryor and George Carlin as John the Baptist. These guys come along and they start selling out shows where it's just them talking for sort of an hour and a half, 2 hours, and being hilarious. And they've come from the nightclubs, but they're doing an hour and a half. They're playing like rock stars in these venues, and people are coming to see them, and they're looking at them, and they're saying something very interesting. There's no filter. You know, if you really think about what friendship is, like really good friends, you got no filter. Work colleagues, you got a bit of filter. Strangers, you got a lot of filter. With comics, it's no filter. It's sort of direct with them. It's like a friendship. And then as things progress through the 70s, 80s, 90s, it's getting better. It's getting more relevant. I'd say it's more relevant today than it's ever been. So I'm kind of working on a thing at the moment on teaching stand-up comedy, because it strikes me that it's more relevant than music. Like, music is non-verbal communication, and it's incredibly important to me, and it anchors an emotion within you, or can anchor emotions within you that are just, it's phenomenal, right? But it's not as relevant as stand-up comedy.
Robbie Prague getting nothing but good press. The Wall Street Journal profiled Robbie. He's the guy running Netflix comedy. And I thought this was really interesting as to how these deals are getting done these days. The Journal writes, using the lower cost, lower risk model Netflix now applies to most stand-up deals. Robbie Prague licensed a 1-hour special from Leanne Morgan. She had to cover the cost of producing the show, but retained ownership and could negotiate a new deal if it performed well. That explains why a lot of these specials look homemade. Like Tim Dillon, who I love, and I'm going to deny that when he gets canceled. I never said I liked Tim Dillon. Who said I liked Tim Dillon? I never said that. His special, the sound was terrible. I don't know if he hired a friend. I don't know what went into Tim Dillon's special, but it wasn't mixed right, in my opinion. And Tim Dillon's the list, right? Howard Stern, Jerry Seinfeld, John Mulaney, Tim Dillon, fans of Nikki Glaser, and everyone at Netflix. Leanne had to cover the cost of producing the show. And Scott Beckett, he does not like the Joe Coy joke. He's mad, and I can tell he doesn't like it. She had to cover the She had to cover the cost of producing the show, but retained ownership and could negotiate a new deal for Perform Well. I'm Every Woman was a hit. Last month, Morgan signed with the streamer for 2 additional specials, plus a 16-episode sitcom. An agent at CAA said Robbie basically recreated Montreal Comedy Festival in a better location with significantly more financing. From EW, Bert Kreischer is not a cokehead, and he's thrilled that the Tom Brady roast didn't make him seem like one. He explained to Jimmy Kimmel that he had nicotine patches in a can in his pocket, but he was informed by the director of the roast that they were too distracting, so I said, okay, I'll put them in a little bag. Sam J. ripped Bert, saying that he's a fake party animal, that I don't even do drugs, I'm not even dead like the big ones. So I went in my pocket and pulled out my nicotine patches, and I just wiggled them. Andrew Schultz goes, you got a bag of blow on you? And then the camera's on me in the forum, and the forum goes nuts like, this guy brought coke. Segura comes back to me and tells me, you're about to go viral. Everyone's going to think you're a cokehead. But they edited it out. Thank God. I don't have to deal with my daughters. I've been saying no pills, no powder for years, and the dad's rolling in with half an 8-ball. Bert said the roast was terrifying because it's a big list. It's a big dais. There's a bunch of murderers, but it went real well. It went great. And thank God we followed Kim Kardashian. Comedian Rudy Moreno passed away Friday evening. Moreno died of complications from a stroke and sepsis, according to his son, Nathan. Nathan added he put up a gritty fight and did all he could. Agent Mark Scroggs said Rudy was a great mentor to many comics, was a great comedy show host, which is the toughest job in comedy because you have to support and let the others shine. And he was very involved in local charities. Ken Jeong posted on social media, "My heart is truly broken. Rudy Moreno, the godfather of Latino comedy, was the first person to book me at the Ice House. In fact, the first time my wife ever saw me do stand-up was at the Ice House on Rudy's show. All this led me to doing my Netflix special at the Ice House, thanks to Rudy Moreno constantly supporting me, letting me get stage time on all his shows. And he was hilarious, the consummate comedian. I'm laughing, thinking of his East LA Santa bit right now. He was an incredible actor, guitarist, and singer as well. Just a brilliant artist. Love you so much, Rudy. I know you're making heaven laugh." At the Sydney Comedy Festival, Bonnie Tangi's show is called Lab Meat. The Herald Sun calls her dry and delightfully kooky. She's here to do something very different. I played some of her material from Melbourne about a month ago, but here's a different part of her set. Let's listen.
I don't have kids because I can't afford them. I was online the other day, just like looking at kids. And I saw this thing, and it said that the average cost of raising a child in Australia is $500,000. That's if you keep them the whole time. And I just don't have that sort of money. But my sister has kids, and the youngest one is about 2 months old. And I was holding her the other day, and I was looking at her, and I was thinking, you are so cute, not worth $500,000. And at that moment, I dropped her. Yeah, and I just felt like so bad, like, because it really does depreciate their value.
Lots of fun. I like her a lot. The Hollywood Reporter was at Nick Offerman and Friends versus Climate Crisis, part of the Netflix festival last week. Some of the friends included Nicole Byer, Atsuko Otkatsuka, and Kamal Nanjiani, Mae Martin as well. The reporter says one of the highlights was Atsuko's set about her high school cheerleading days. Drag queen Patty Gonia gave the audience a science lesson in support of their thesis, Nature is Gay. The environmentalist performed a delightful drag routine of a clownfish, transitioning from male to female that included Nemo references, costume changes, and confetti. That sounds fun. SNL's 50th anniversary coming up. NBC has announced a 7-month-long party to celebrate SNL, including a November election special, new holiday specials, a documentary series, that'll be good, multi-part music specials, that'll be good as well, and a comedy special at Radio City Music Hall. There will be a 3-hour SNL 50 primetime special that will air Sunday, February 16th from 8 to 11 p.m. Unless the NFL pushes the Super Bowl to that weekend, then you're not going to show it that night, I'll tell you that. When is the Super Bowl next year? Oh, you're in luck. The Super Bowl is February 9th, so it'll go. Guess they're not afraid of the Daytona 500. The show and red carpet event will welcome stars of the past and present. I'm expecting a lot of Will Ferrell. Technically, the 50th anniversary is October 11th, 2025. Dennis Leary, I've told you about this before, but it's now official. A series order going to Going Dutch, a comedy starring and executive produced by Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary is 66, by the way. This single-camera series, I bring that up for a reason, centers on an arrogant, loudmouth U.S. Army colonel, a 66-year-old colonel, who apparently, after an epically unfiltered rant, is reassigned to the Netherlands, where he's punished with a command position at the least important army base in the world. After serving with distinction in every war zone of the last 3 decades, the 66-year-old colonel now finds himself in charge of a base with no guns, no weapons, and no tactical purpose. Instead, it has a Michelin star-level commissary and a top-notch bowling alley. If I'm understanding what I'm reading on Veteran.com correctly, age 62 is the maximum age listed in the Title 10 USC for officers below general and flag grades. 66-year-old Dennis Leary, I guess, is playing a 61-year-old colonel? What if the show runs 10 years? What will happen? It's a sitcom, John. Poe.com tells me that the average age for a colonel is 45 years old. I'm sure I'm misunderstanding something. If you are clearly more expert than I am in military rank and age, would love to hear from you. Either email me, it's in the show notes, or hit the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast Group. Tracy Morgan getting a new show on Paramount Plus. This is set in the same world as The Neighborhood. Tracy Morgan will play Francois Crutchfield, a.k.a. Crutch. Cedric the Entertainer said in a statement, "I'm excited to be expanding our The Neighborhood universe by producing a show with the legendary comedian Tracy Morgan." Legendary is a bit strong. Add Tracy to the list. Howard Stern, Tracy Morgan. The new character is a close cousin of my character, Calvin Butler, and you'll enjoy some of their many similarities. Why can't it be the same character? Morgan plays Crutch, a say-it-like-it-is widowed father who is challenged when his 2 adult children and a couple of grandchildren need to move back home. And let's just say, there'll be several comedic complications. Bill Maher has announced he's not going to do stand-up anymore. He was on Club Random talking to his guest Jerry Seinfeld. Maher said, after this year, I'm going to stop doing stand-up comedy. I don't want to make it like a big announcement or anything. I'm doing a special at the end of the year. It'll be my 13th for HBO, and that's a lot. I put a lot of time and effort in it because, as you know, stand-up is like playing the cello. You can't just walk up there. You have to stay in practice, and I do. And I've always loved stand-up, and I'm always working on it, but I have a show. Jerry said, it's not crazy. I think perhaps for you, whatever feels right for you feels right. And that is your comedy news for today. If you'd like this program ad-free, hit subscribe in the Apple Podcast app, $4.99 a month. Get this and the other shows on the network ad-free. See you tomorrow.